Maison Azure's crystal chandeliers bathed the elegant dining room in a warm glow as Caroline Levitt slipped through the side door. Clad in jeans and a casual blazer after a long day of meetings, the 27-year-old Harvard Business School graduate looked unlike the typical image of the owner of Boston's premier fine dining restaurant. Owning 5 successful establishments across New England, Caroline preferred anonymity, often visiting her venues incognito to assess operations from a guest's perspective. Tonight, she aimed to do just that. At the host stand, she softly requested a table for one. The new host, Brandon, gave her a dismissive glance, his attention shifting to a well-dressed couple behind her. "Reservation?" he asked curtly. "No, but any table will do," Caroline replied warmly. What unfolded over the next 15 minutes would shock the staff and redefine the restaurant's ethos. Maison Azure, with its plush blue velvet chairs, hand-painted ceilings, and Charles River views, was Boston's elite dining destination since opening 18 months ago. Reservations required weeks of planning, and its strict dress code was notorious. Few knew Caroline, who shunned publicity and let her restaurant's success speak for her, was the mastermind behind it. That evening, with general manager Frank Weber away for his daughter's graduation, assistant manager Derek Willard oversaw the floor for the first time, enforcing policies with zeal. Caroline was seated at table 17, a discreet corner spot ideal for observation but less desirable. Brandon frowned at her casual attire but said nothing, as the restaurant wasn't fully booked. She noted small lapses, empty water glasses at table 9, a delayed appetizer at table 23, and the genuine warmth of veteran server Marissa with regulars. The new waiter, Thomas Pelletier, approached with polished ease but a noticeably cooler tone upon seeing her outfit. A Michelin-starred veteran, Thomas had technical prowess, but as Frank had warned, a questionable attitude towards certain guests. "True luxury is how we make people feel," Frank had advised, a lesson Thomas would soon confront. "Good evening," Thomas said, his smile tight. "Something to drink?" Caroline ordered a glass of Chateau Margaux 2010, a $950 bottle she'd personally selected. Surprise flickered across Thomas's face, replaced by condescension. "That's an expensive choice, madam. Perhaps a house wine? They start at 8 €. Maintaining composure, Caroline replied, "The Margaux is fine." Thomas hesitated, then demanded, "I'll need a credit card." This breached Maison Azure's policy, which required cards only for bar bottle service. Curious, Caroline asked, "New policy?" Thomas's vague, "for certain orders," carried a clear bias. She handed over her Black American Express Centurion card, noting his widened eyes as he took it. Derek watched from afar, his brow furrowed but unmoving. Neither realized this interaction with an unassuming guest would spark a transformative moment. When Thomas returned with the wine, his demeanor shifted slightly, the card's prestige registering, yet he maintained a patronizing air. "Your Margaux, madam," he said, pouring a small taste with precision, but no warmth. Caroline, who'd chosen the vintage in Bordeaux, savored it. "Perfect, thank you." "Dining alone?" Thomas asked, a hint of pity in his tone. "Yes," she replied. He suggested simple menu items like chicken, avoiding the chef's specialties he'd pitched elsewhere. Caroline requested Chef Laurent's tasting menu, praising its innovative French techniques. Thomas's eyebrows rose. It's 7 courses with pairings, $300 per person, and requires advance notice. "That sounds perfect," she said. He agreed to check with the kitchen, and she overheard his hushed talk with Derek, their glances her way signaling concern. As the meal began, Caroline contrasted Thomas's cold service with sommelier Marcus's warm expertise with wealthier diners. The first course, a caviar amuse-bouche with gold leaf, came with Thomas's patronizing explanation. Caviar is fish eggs from the Caspian Sea. The gold is decorative, no taste. Caroline nodded. I'm familiar with beluga caviar. Beautiful presentation. Throne, Thomas pressed on, oversimplifying each dish. When she asked about a dish's inspiration, he dismissed her. It's complex, hard to explain without a culinary background. Unbeknownst to him, Caroline had studied culinary arts and collaborated with Chef Laurent on Maison Azure's concept. The situation escalated when a senator and his wife, regulars, arrived without a reservation and were promptly seated at a prime table. Thomas fawned over them, leaving Caroline's water glass empty, and her fourth course, a halibut with beurre blanc, neglected for 20 minutes. Derek, distracted with VIPs, missed the lapse. When Thomas returned, he described the dish condescendingly. A white fish with a sauce that might be too complex. Caroline, who'd suggested the sauce's kaffir lime note, asked, Is there kaffir lime? He smirked. No, just lemon and butter. Chef Laurent's flavors aren't for everyone. Further slights followed. Thomas dismissed her request to speak with Marcus, saying he could handle her wine questions to avoid disturbing the senator's table. When she noted the sixth course's temperature, he snapped, It's as chef intended. Maybe it's not what you're used to. By dessert, a chocolate soufflé from her grandmother's recipe, Caroline seized her moment. I'm familiar with this soufflé, she said. I gave Chef Laurent the recipe when we opened. Thomas froze. I'm Caroline Levitt, the owner. In a private dining room, Thomas's apologies poured out, but Caroline stopped him. The issue is your service depended on knowing who I was. To Derek, she said, You should have noticed. Instead of firing them, she assigned them to work with Frank on a new training program, using Thomas's errors as a case study. They'd also dine anonymously at her 5 restaurants to experience service as guests. Empathy comes from lived experience, she said. You have 4 weeks to show you understand. The next morning, Caroline addressed the staff, introducing the Azure standard, a philosophy of consistent, genuine hospitality for all. The dress code was relaxed, subjective policies were scrapped, and bias training was implemented. Staff would dine as anonymous guests monthly. Thomas, initially shaken, became a passionate advocate, developing training scenarios with Frank. 6 months later, Boston Magazine lauded the Azure standard's impact. A note from an elderly diner, feeling welcomed despite her simple attire, moved Caroline deeply. A year later, a celebratory dinner marked the standard's success, with Caroline emphasizing, True luxury is making everyone feel valued. Her restaurants flourished, their inclusive ethos drawing longer reservation lists. A single night of misjudgment had sparked a hospitality revolution, proving education, not punishment, transforms mistakes into lasting change.